Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is your Frontier Opening Bell. My guest on the show this morning, Joshua Debisi, Head of Banking Analysis and Research at Vertical Capital. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, boss.
Thank you. Great to have you. Nigeria's second quarter GDP numbers just came in this morning. I'm sure you analysts will have a whole day today and Friday pouring over the numbers for the period between April and June. That's taking us effectively. We'll put the first half of the year in perspective. Let's leave that today. You can see the market here were a little bit mixed. A bit of a lackluster Wednesday, by the way, for the NGX, for the BRVM, quite some of the big names like SocGen, the Bank of Africa, Cote d'Ivoire fell yesterday on the BRVM. The EGX went up, beating the rest of the bigger names on the African continent by 1.04%. Quite some big names also on the uptick. Investors traded about 133 million US dollars on the Egyptian market. Nigerian market was still just about a few trading day, 0.5% down in the water. All the 5 major indices to finish flat, finish in the green, in the red, I beg your pardon. Then, of course, you've got the industrial goods also, that the banking sector fell a little bit after investors booked some profit on some of the big names in the banking sector, like Zenith and GT Holdco. GSE, South African market, finished flat on the day. A bit of a mixed trading day. The currency, however, was a bit better by about 0.8%. Let's take the markets down and look at some of the core stories, because the markets in Kenya, the SEC, which is the Capital Market Authority, is looking to allow listed companies to do hybrid annual general meetings because of the virus. In other words, a bit of folks allowed to attend the event, formally speaking, then the rest of the shareholders can connect via the internet or digital means. That's what the SEC is looking at considering. I guess we did a bit of this in Nigeria for some of the AGMs for last year, 2020. Acorn Investment has gotten included in the Kenya's SEC's regulatory sandbox. The trade barriers between Kenya and Tanzania is likely tapering, and we're likely to see them set some of the issues right between both countries, very critical two economies in East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania, before the end of this year to get to pave the way for the new EFCFTA to take very foothold. Mauritius Central Bank is looking to hold rates until the economy recovers. I think that's a bit more consistent with what is considered by other central bankers around the world. Uganda's commodity export earnings down to about 1.5 trillion local currencies in June. That's a bit of the trade barriers, movement of goods, then, of course, the restrictions around COVID-19 in the period. Joshua, give me just a bit of your thoughts on the Kenya's SEC looking to allow companies to do their annual general meetings at a hybrid level. I think we've gone past that level in Nigeria.
Well, what I'll say is I think this is, it's about time, and it's very important that these companies start to embrace, not just these companies, these regulators start to embrace the new reality. Even if all lockdowns end and COVID disappears tomorrow, the truth is it's better for investors, it's better for regulators, it's better for companies if they are able to, digitally broadcast their general meetings, because it means that attendance will be higher. Engagement will also probably be a lot higher, because I know a lot of people, especially in Nigeria, like you said, are more likely to attend an AGM for a company that they invested in if they know that they have the advantage or the option of taking it in their house or in their home or in their office, on Zoom. So that will just foster a better environment of communication and also help people to stay informed about the companies that they invested in, and also help them to reach a wider audience, because that means that I can, as a Nigerian, attend an AGM for a Kenyan company without having to travel all the way down to Kenya. So I think these things, these things should become more commonplace and should become the new normal, even as things start to go back to the old normal.
I get it. Because I remember when Multichoice and Supersports were listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange back then in 1999. I remember the annual general meeting here in South Africa. Nigerian shareholders, some Nigerian shareholders have to fly to get tickets, get visas and all of that. book for hotels to go to South Africa to attend at least one of the annual general meetings. So you can imagine, like you said, you can hold AGMs from Kenya. But again, I think it's going to help the retail investors a lot more because anywhere you are, you could just join the annual general meeting for a few minutes from wherever you are, make your comments and log off as the case may be. Your attendance is recorded and all of that. I think it's a whole flexibility, it's a new whole world and a new horizon now that we just can't go back whether you have COVID-19 or not. That's a very solid point you make there. Let's look at the Nigerian market. I'm sure I spoke about the GDP numbers earlier, which came in a little bit around 5.1%. 5.01% year on year for the second quarter. First quarter was 0.51%. I'm sure the big report is still out there being looked at. The story overnight yesterday relates to the tribunal story. Audrey in Multichoice to pay 900 billion naira in tax backlog. Of course, we got a holding statement from Multichoice late yesterday evening clarifying that that was not exactly what the tax tribunal ordered. According to the fifth schedule of the FIRS Establishment Act, what the law says was that when there's a tax in dispute, the company could pay, should deposit with the FIRS the equal amount of what the to deposit with the FIRS what the prior year assessment figure for tax was, or the half of the disputed amount plus 10%, whichever of this figure is lower, by the way. So that clarification came from Multichoice yesterday. It's still being reported. We're yet to hear back from the FIRS. The case has been moved on to September 25th, by the way. Congo DRC is looking to raise $58 billion via industrial drive for economic recovery. That's quite part of his country's industrialization program moving forward. And Fitch upgraded Gabon's rating to B-. The outlook is stable. Joshua, give me some of your thoughts around the Multichoice story and maybe a few words on the GDP numbers that just dropped in our inbox.
Okay, so just to start off with this whole Multichoice thing, I always find it very funny that we seem to have these disputes with South African companies almost exclusively. You know, first it was MTN, now Multichoice. We just seem to have a lot of disputes when it comes to whether it's regulation, fines, or taxes, whatever the case may be. I really want to know the full details. Like you said, you know, they made a few clarifications about what exactly the tribunal said. Now, I'm not entirely sure how things are going to proceed going forward. I don't think that they're going to end up paying anywhere near that amount, just because there will have to be some sort of negotiation back and forth, and I'm sure they will get on it immediately with their lawyers, their tax lawyers, just to try and, you know, get themselves out of that situation. But I find it difficult to imagine that they are owing, you know, that much to the federal government. Like, what exactly was the procedure of regulating them, of auditing them, and of charging them taxes over the past, you know, few years that they could be seen to owe that much? It might just be a retroactive, you know. Well, let's not speculate really on the intentions of the FIRS on why that is the case, but it's definitely a very big story and it's very concerning. But hopefully we'll get, you know, solid clarification very soon, because Multichoice is a very, very big company in Nigeria, obviously for various reasons. You know, across multimedia, they control basically almost like a monopoly. You know, we've tried to see some competitors in that space over the years, and all of them are falling by the wayside. We've had Kwese, TSTV, Star Times. You know, if they still exist, they don't exist on anywhere near the level in comparison to Multichoice. So it is a very, very big company, and so this has to be settled amicably for obvious reasons. Now, as for GDP figures, what we do is to put it into context. Obviously, we have to remember that Q2 of last year was basically the core of the pandemic lockdown, where our GDP fell to minus, I think it was about 6.7 or something ridiculous like that. Yes. So basically, this is based on that base effect. the economy has recovered quite all right, but I wouldn't say it has gotten, back up to zero, just based going from how badly it fell in Q2 of 2020. However, obviously, it is very positive compared to Q1, and the recovery, it beats our expectations somewhat. We were expecting about 4.4 percent year on year. So 5.01 is a positive. Hopefully, what will happen is that we'll start to gather more momentum and push forward. The truth is, based on the numbers, I just took a little bit of analysis on the numbers, and it looks as if the financial services sector actually contracted year on year, which is quite interesting. There are a few reasons for that. I think, first of all, because we know that in Q2 of 2020, the banks did not, feel the hit because of the fact that there was a massive restructuring of loans, and so they were still able to pretty much continue to operate as is, and so they didn't really book a lot of losses in that period. I think maybe now that has cooled down, and now we're seeing a little bit of the effect of that restructuring in Q2 of this year. But unfortunately, we haven't seen, all the numbers from the big banks. Obviously, the CBN, almost all of them have put out statements saying that the CBN has delayed the approval of their interim results. So we can't get a clearer picture until we see that. It's also quite unfortunate that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics has not been releasing their banking sector reports. We haven't seen any for this year yet. That would also give us a lot more clarity on why the financial sector.
There's one on the calendar tomorrow. There is the telecoms and the banking sector reports on the MBS calendar for tomorrow, Friday, the 27th. So
hopefully they release it.
Let's hope that comes, because we're also due to have the capital importation report for second quarter on Monday. We didn't get that. Now we got the GDP, so let's hope that the telecoms and the banking sector select data will come tomorrow, and we can all add that together to the GDP numbers. Thank you so much, Joshua. Let's touch on South Africa, because the market finished off flat yesterday. Then there's a GDP also, which to talk about revision, which South Africa has done. They revised the GDP for last year by 11%. Bigger after that revision, $369 billion US, but still below Nigeria's $375 billion US, but almost running out neck to neck. Joshua, I want to have your thoughts on that a little bit. The July unrest, the South Africa's association, those are insurers, says the claims could be up to 20 billion rand. You remember, about 199 million rand was stolen in cash when those rioters broke into banks and ATMs and what have you. Then if you count the losses across board in terms of real estate and what have you, and stolen property, damaged and bonds and all that, that's coming to a very hefty amount of 20 billion. So the impact of that on the economy, according to the Treasury, will be between 0.7 and 0.9%. Zimbabwe is getting about $960 million from the IMF special drawing rights, and the idea is to shore up the currency, spend part of it in the manufacturing and industrial goods sector, and then for the COVID-19 pandemic, and help the economy to soft land. Sonangol, which is Angola's energy giant, is speeding up its divestment from fossil fuel and moving on to the next level, which is the energy transition into clean energy. In Mozambique, the trial of 19 individuals who were allegedly involved in hidden debt scandal has started. Let's talk about the GDP in South Africa, this revision, Joshua.
Well, so it sounds a lot like sort of rebasing of their numbers. I think they said they moved it to 2015, which is what bumped it up. And unfortunately for them, they've been going through a little bit of a, tough period. If not, I'm sure they would have, they would be the largest economy once again based on that rebasing. But what I'll say is, in comparison to Nigeria, we haven't rebased our GDP figures for quite a while now. And if we were to rebase to 2015 like they have done, you would see, I think, a massive jump as well. So, it's all about statistics and the way we measure, the economy based on the previous year's numbers and, going back historically. So it's a positive, but it's really more about optics because, the real economy might not even feel that effect. You might not be able to say that it feels as if there was $37 billion more generated or, produced within the economy than there was. It may not feel that way. So it's really just about perception, outside perception. But it is a positive thing for them. I think Nigeria should be looking to rebasing our figures very soon because it would make a big change if we were to, break up the ICT sector and include fintech in our measurements. That would really, really bump up the Nigerian GDP figures as well. So that is something to look out for and to anticipate, I think.
Well, okay. Well said. The IMF special drawing rights allocations kicked in yesterday, August the 25th to Nigeria. Zimbabwe says it's going to spend. How should Nigeria spend its own 3.337 billion US dollars? That's a whole lot of money.
Well, I mean,
we haven't heard from the central bank or the Ministry of Finance how we're going to spend it yet, but we got the second highest level in Africa. As South Africa got $4.1 billion, we got 3.3. So how should we spend the money?
Let me be controversial for a second and say that we should have gotten more like 10 billion, to be honest. The truth is, this kind of thing, this kind of stimulus is necessary. It's more than necessary. The problem I have is I'm not entirely confident in our ability to spend and allocate those funds wisely, just because historically we have had quite a few issues with doing so. But obviously, infrastructure is the number one issue. Then obviously shoring up our currency also is a very, very big issue. I mean, the fact that there's still a continuing divergence between the official, in quotes, rate and the black market rate shows you that there isn't still enough confidence within the black market that there will be enough liquidity. So the price of dollar continues going up, and we do not.
Well, what's the percentage of this money or the share of this money, Joshua, that you think should go to our productive sector? Because we can't just blow this money away by selling it to banks for BTAs and PTAs.
Of course not. But what I would say is I don't think that this money is even going to go in that direction. First of all, it will shore up our FX reserves. And as we know, the CBN, or rather the DMO, is planning and will soon execute their first tranche of Eurobond issuance. Now, that money is what will come directly into the real economy to start with. So really, this will just shore up our FX reserves and allow us to have, or allow investors to have greater confidence in the Nigerian market or economy and to hopefully attract FPAs and FDIs into the country, And that should, in some sense, improve our dollar liquidity. But it will not directly impact that. That will be more from the Eurobond issuances that will bring in raw cash upfront that will then pay back over time. But this is just special drawing rights. Gives us the access to those funds, but majority of it will not be used within the real economy. That will come from our Eurobond issuance.
Well, let's hope so, because whether we like it or not, we just can't keep pumping money down the drain defending the Naira when we're less productive. At the end of the day, we're going to end up really worse on the other side. But because everybody's going to look at the end of the day, how did each country in sub-Saharan Africa spend their own funds? Perhaps you'll be surprised countries who got much less allocation could do better in terms of utilization. But we'll keep digging around from the Nigerian authorities to have a clear plan of how this money will be spent. Thank you so much, Joshua. To finish off on the North Africa, I spoke about the Egyptian market a little bit earlier because the market yesterday, investors traded very actively, quite some big names in the green. The Egyptian 30 EGX 30 index yesterday crossed into the 11,000 threshold, added a few hundred notches there. The first hovering sukuk issue will range between $1 billion to $2 billion. The Egyptians are here with the sukuk bond, by the way. And of course, Algeria says it's called diplomatic ties with Morocco over hostile actions. And Tunisia's Panuro Energy reporting turnover of $105.8 million in the first half. The Nigerian authorities have done so much in the sukuk market. Joshua, do you think the Egyptians are here if they're doing the first issuance, sovereign issuance of $1.2 billion? You put that in Nigerian naira terms, that's about $500 million or half a trillion naira.
Yeah, $500 billion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nah,
I mean,
yes.
So yeah, our own sukuk issuances have not, even scratched the surface of those levels. So I think that's, pretty much why Egypt is Egypt and Nigeria is Nigeria. But it's encouraging, definitely, because as we know, Egypt is a very big market, has access to the entire Middle East. It's like the gateway for the Middle East into Africa, through Saudi Arabia, down all the way to Iran and Afghanistan and all those places. So I think that this is obviously just more funds in their pockets and better for their current account balance and for their economy in general. I wish we could be at that level across the entire financial industry, not just with regards to sukuk, but with regards to attracting, heavy levels of investment and having the investors' confidence to attract it at much lower rates. Because you know that our borrowing is significant in the dollar space, but it's not as cheap as it should or it could be, to be honest. And unfortunately, we are the generation that are going to have to pay it back over the next 20 to 30 years. And unfortunately, we're still not even seeing any kind of hope that it will be, it will be productive enough for us to have the economy to pay it back.
When the time comes. And that, I think that's the grim side of it. If the economy would be in a position to pay back as and when due. I think that's a future word for it. Thank you so much for bringing that future perspective into it to wrap up the show this morning on Frontier Opening Bell. Thank you so much, Joshua Debisi, Head of Banking Research and Analysis at Vertiva Capital. Have a great day. Thank you so much. See you again tomorrow, next time on the show. Bye for now, everyone. I am Busin Omofaye. I'll see you next time.